During the early 1980s, a young man named John McNaughton had worked on a few crime and mafia documentaries, studying real-life criminals and murderers, and decided he wanted to be a filmmaker and somehow got hired to direct a horror film with no script or story for $100,000, and he came up with this, Henry, A Portrait of a Serial Killer. This review will have major spoilers on the entire film, fair warning. This is going to be a long video, I have a lot to say about this movie. Michael Rooker plays Henry and Tom Towles plays Otis. Otis and Henry live in Chicago working very low paying jobs after meeting in prison. They have parole officers and spend most of their time watching TV, selling weed to teenagers, and killing random people for no personal reason. Well, in the beginning, Henry's doing all the killing on his own. Otis's sister moves in with them and she falls in love with Henry. Henry doesn't love her, but I think that he likes her and that's enough for her. Henry ends up showing Otis his technique of killing people in different ways so the cops will never find them, and Otis loves it. They steal a VHS camera and record some of their killings. After Henry finds Otis raping Becky, he murders him and escapes with Becky, only to kill her too and continue driving around looking for a new town to live in and kill people. So this film is loosely based on the serial killers Henry Lee Lucas and his partner in crime Otis O'Toole. They both died in prison but both left their print in serial killer culture and more than enough tragedies in the world. Netflix recently made a documentary on Lucas called The Confessions Killer, and Otis confessed to the murder of 6-year-old Adam Walsh in Hollywood, Florida in 1981. Adam was abducted from a mall on a summer day and his severed head was found in a drainage canal about 120 miles away. Almost 2 weeks later, they never found his body. Adam's father was John Walsh, the host and creator of the television show America's Most Wanted. This movie is based in reality, but it's like the PG-13 version of Henry and Otis. In real life, Henry and Otis would often have sex, and they did film a scene for that in this movie, but they decided to cut it out. And Becky's character was Otis's 15-year-old niece who was slightly retarded. He didn't kill Becky though. This is a really hard film to watch. Most people don't watch it more than once, even the ones who respect it, like Roger Ebert.
Many of the scenes in this movie are really hard to take, including one where they videotape one of their home invasions. There is no doubt in my mind that Henry is a powerful and important film, brilliantly directed and acted. But why should there be a film like this, a dispassionate record of a mass murderer? Well, because there are people like this, and one of the purposes of serious films is to help us see and understand the world we live in.
God, this is why I love Roger Ebert. Even though Lucas was only convicted of the murders of 11 people, he confessed to over 100 murders, but not everyone believes him. Some people only believe that he only killed a few at most due to evidence. I first saw this movie as a teenager and it really affected me. I've seen this film at least 3 times. I've been wanting to make a video on this film for years, but I was intimidated by it. One, this film scares people. Just the title itself scares people, but I really enjoy and respect this film. I don't think I enjoyed it the first watch, but I enjoy it now. This is a very dark, grisly, and depraved film. I don't think this is an evil film, I think it's a film about evil people. But now having this film in my brain for over 10 years, I see the black comedy in it. I think with a title like this, people think it's going to tell us why Henry became a serial killer. This movie does not explain why Henry and Otis do the things that they do. It just shows us what they do. I think it tricks the audience with thinking they're giving us an explanation, with Henry explaining how his mother treated him and how he killed her. But a minute later he describes another way of killing her, then forgets that way. I have to admit, this scene cracks me up, just how she calls him out on changing his story. I don't know if he's just a pathological liar or really is just insane. I'm going with he's a liar because he's smart enough to hold down a job and get away with all these murders for this long. He's the smartest character in this movie. I mean, that's not really saying much. Becky and Otis are idiots. There's a lot going on in this scene. I do think Henry and Becky are connecting and bonding over their traumatic childhood. Becky is a sad character. Henry really is the nicest guy that she's ever met, and that's why she loves him. Henry is very strange. In many scenes he is a gentleman, especially with Becky. I do think he has romantic feelings for her, and for the record, everything Henry says about his past with his mother is true, as in the real serial killer Henry Lee Lucas. She was a whore who made him dress as a girl and pimped him out to men. Who knows what kind of sexual issues that would leave on a person. A part of me thinks he hates all women, that's why he kills them and is fighting his homosexuality, but he does have sex with that prostitute before he kills her. I think that Henry hates sexuality. It reminds him of his mother. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist. Henry's just fucked in the head, but he's not insane. When I first watched this film, I didn't think it was funny at all. I was genuinely scared of Henry and Otis, especially Otis. This film is a character study, but the characters are serial killers. Very much like American Psycho, but Patrick Bateman is a rich yuppie in the 1980s. Henry and Otis are low-level working-class criminals living on parole. I think they are much more relatable to most serial killers than Patrick Bateman is. This film is commenting on violence as entertainment. Most violent movies use the kills as entertainment. That scene where he kills a TV guy is a needed contrast to every other kill in the film. This guy is rude and insulting, and we as the audience know he's going to die, and we feel a satisfaction seeing him die. This is how most other films play out. It makes you feel okay with watching murder and entertains you with it. But then we see the family get killed and we think, oh my god, this is how murder really is. I was just on these people's side to kill someone a few minutes ago, and now look where we're at. I mean, just look at the scene where Otis and Henry are watching the video of them killing the family. They could have been watching any Stallone or Freddy Krueger movie, but they're watching an actual murder. This is the scene everyone talks about when they're discussing this movie. It's been discussed so much, I almost feel redundant bringing it up. What else is there to say? The scene itself says it all, but I'll explain my reaction to it. I saw this film when I was about 16 years old and I knew very little of it, so when this scene ended, I shut off the DVD and took a shower. And I remember thinking in the shower, do I really need to finish this movie? I don't like how I feel right now. But then I thought, if a film can have this much of effect on me, it deserves to be seen, so I finished it. It's very hard to scare me with movies, but this scene scared me. It's lost its effect now since I know what happens, but when I first saw the teenager open the door, my heart stopped. The other moments that really scared me was when Otis touched a teenager and was raping his sister. That's the kind of stuff that really disturbs me. I do think that this film is genuinely trying to disturb us, but I think some good comes out of that. Fear keeps us away from bad things and people. I'm sure when this film came out, people just expected an exploitation film, and I enjoy some of those films. We see hot naked girls getting killed by sexist evil men. That's what most exploitation films are, and this film has all of that, but this film is so much more than that. Maybe this was intended as an exploitation film, but this is an art film. It's too smart to just be exploitation. The good I see from these kinds of films is that it shows the absolute worst side of the world. You can't just hide from these things and people because they will find you. A lot of it's about luck. Every victim of a serial killer was very unlucky to have come across their killers, and that's horrible, but sometimes life is horrible. Aside from the fat TV guy and Otis, no one in this film deserves the death that they get. It's completely random. It's all about these men having a few moments of gratification, and their gratification is by killing people or having sex. And people like this exist in the world, and they always will. We need movies like this to tell us, don't trust everybody. Don't always be a good Samaritan. Most people don't realize how it was living in the decades before the 1980s. Women would hitchhike everywhere or stand in the streets prostituting themselves. Every day women were putting themselves in strangers' cars. And I think that's a big reason why the 1970s and 80s were the heyday of serial killers. We had people like Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, the Hillside Stranglers, and Ted Bundy. And these are just the most infamous ones. It's insane at how many serial killers were running around. They were all over the world. They could have been your neighbor, your brother, husband, or father. And this was when TV was starting to make so much documentaries about these killers. People grew up watching these serial killers and knowing all the facts about them at a very young age just by watching TV. This film challenges you as a viewer. You're with Henry and you're part of these murders. Henry is terrible and kills just for fun. And he's not even the worst character of the film. Otis is. Henry is driven by boredom. Otis is driven by sex. Otis scares me the most because Henry will most likely just kill you. Otis will rape you and then kill you, man or woman. I honestly think that this is a great film. It's simple and straight to the point. I love that it's so straightforward and unsympathetic about it. The title tells you exactly what it is, but I really love that this movie is filmed on 16mm, so it feels like a home movie made by Otis and Henry. I think the performances are great. It's no wonder that Michael Rooker became a huge movie star. Can you believe that the star of Henry, a Portrait of a Serial Killer, is in Guardians of the Galaxy? That's insane, but talent is talent, and I love Tom Towles. I grew up knowing him as Deputy Wydell in House of a Thousand Corpses. I really respect these actors, and they've made a lot of great films, and this was both of their first starring role. Movies like this do not work if the performances are not great, and in my opinion, these performances are great. This is not a film for everybody. It's not even a film for most horror fans. This is for the hardcore horror fans, the fans that want to be disturbed and want to push their own limits. This is one of those movies that push how far you're willing to go for entertainment. It's like a rite of passage to some horror fans. When I was a teenager, I wanted to see every hardcore, controversial film that I could find. Personally, I've seen much more sexually violent and graphic films that didn't really affect me because the acting and directing weren't half as good as this film. This film is intense, but it has such an effect because of the quality of the performances. I personally think that this is an important film to watch for actors who want to study the craft and low-budget directors who want to make something simple yet effective. Like I said, I don't think that this is an evil film, it's about evil people. It's not a fun film, it's not easy to watch, but material like this shouldn't be easy to watch. I really respect this film and I'm very glad that I bought the 30th anniversary Blu-ray released by Dark Sky Entertainment. The audio and picture transfer quality is great and has great documentaries on the making of the film and other artists showing their appreciation of a film most respect but don't enjoy. So that's my review on Henry, A Portrait of a Serial Killer, a movie that I'm glad exists. I'm Jacob from Cinema Junkies. Thanks for watching, keep watching, and don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and follow me at Instagram at cinemajunkies_. Don't forget the underscore.